Hey, welcome to setting up a GitHub repo, which is short for repository. In this video, we're going to be creating an online repository for your project. GitHub provides free public hosting for you. We'll use a default Unreal Engine gitignore file rather than writing it ourselves from scratch now. We'll then clone what we made on the web down to our local machine. And as I said, I will show you how to make a readme.md file with something called Markdown. Now that is a simple language that's like an HTML simplification. And there's a link there you could follow to find out more about Markdown. So by the end of the video, what we will have is we'll have an online repository like this that will be part of, in my case, a series, which is one per section. And we'll have some commits online, which will match what we have locally here. So we basically have an online backup of our repository, and this allows us to share our code with other students. So let's dive in and see how this is done. So hopefully by now you've been using SourceTree or similar to good effect, but we've only so far talked about this in terms of the local storage, which is fine, but at some point we want to back up, we want to share our work with other people, etc. So this is where the public GitHub page comes in. Here's my page, do follow me on GitHub. Then you can see all the stuff I produce. So what you're going to want to do on GitHub to get yourself a remote repository is consider firstly whether you're just going to post as yourself or whether you are going to set up an organization. So I've got it organized into an organization per course. You may want to do the same thing. You may want to set up a Unreal course organization or something like that for yourself. That just allows you to group a bunch of repositories together. So if I look at my Unreal course organization, it has one repository for each section. And then the repository, like Building Escape, when we go into it, has the source code and some description, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it also has all 46 commits, which relate to the lectures that I produced. Okay, so you might want to do something very similar. It's up to you exactly when you commit, but I'm suggesting you do it after each video just to get in the habit. So if you're already used to source control and Git and you know how this website works, you probably just want to skip straight on to the next video. All I'm going to be doing is creating a repo here on GitHub. I'm going to use the default gitignore that GitHub provides for Unreal, and I'm going to write a brief readme.md file in Markdown. So that's just to let you know what I'll be doing. So firstly, we need to make sure we're actually signed in. So at this point, I'm not signed in. At the top right, I've got the option to sign in. There we go, done. And then I'm going to create myself a new repository, either against my user or in my case, against an organization called Unreal Course. Note the naming convention. I'm going to use a very consistent naming, 04_OK, battle, tank. Okay, great. So we're going to say a brief description, an open world head to head tank fight with simple AI, terrain, and advanced control systems in Unreal 4. Okay, great. It's going to be public. You can't make it private without paying. Okay, now I am going to initialize the project with a README file. And it's a readme.md, which is Markdown. In the first slide of this video, there is a link to a Markdown cheat sheet, or to be honest, just do a Google search for Markdown cheat sheet or syntax. And even if you don't spell it right, you'll get something like this Daring Fireball one. And it'll tell you how Markdown works. It's actually very simple. It's a way of writing HTML without writing HTML, basically. This was written by a blogger. It's a very cool idea. So we're going to initialize with a README. Let's other people know what your repository is about when they get to the web page. And we're also going to use now, this time, now that you've seen how a gitignore is built up, why give ourselves the pain of building it up from scratch? Why don't we just type Unreal in here and realize that people have already made one and it's going to be good enough. License is up to you if you put a license in. I'm going to leave no license here. And let's click Create Repository. Great, so there we go. We have Battle Tank now, an open world head-to-head tank fight game, simple AI. So this is the beginning of my README.md, but it's a bit rubbish. So one of the first things I'm going to want to do here is to edit this README. You can click on it and you can click the little edit this file. Then you can go in and you can see what it's doing. Hash is a level 1 heading. Okay, so Battle Tank. Now, rather than me building this from scratch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a previous repository. I'm going to go into its README file, edit this, and this is the Markdown code for it. I'm going to take all of this stuff here, including the first lecture, and the second, actually right up to the third lecture, because most of that's going to be reused. Note some of the things in here. You've got links are done like this in square brackets, then in circular brackets the link. It's all in the cheat sheets. Stars do a bullet list, double hash is level 2 heading, single hash is level 1 heading. Okay, so let's just paste that in. Make sure all of this works okay. Okay, so intro, notes, and section assets is BE01, and it's not BE anymore. I'm using a code which is TB for, no, BT, Battle Tank. Hey, there are my initials, BT. And the second one was game design document, and I'll iterate the rest later. So by editing this game design document, I'm actually making a commit here. So what I'm actually going to do first is commit the first video I made, which is that one there. And I'm just going to call it, what I do for my commits is I actually call them the name of the lecture. And normally I put in the description something about it, but I'm just going to do this for now. So by editing your README, you're making a commit, all right? Now look how that's formatted. The stars became this line, the links all work, etc. All right, so have a play with Markdown. Write yourself a little primer for your repository. Now, if I go back and look at Battle Tank now, I can see I've got 2 commits, an initial commit, and then I've got BT01, intro, notes, and section assets, right? So the second video that I made was called something else. It was the GDD one. So I could edit the Markdown file again and recommit. This is how I commit files where there's actually been no code changes. So let me just do that really quickly. Battle Tank, readme.md, edit it, put in the other video, which is star for a bullet point, BT02 for Battle Tank Video 2, game design document, GDD. Okay, and then let's just commit this as exactly that name. And the reason is I want to give you a bit of a repository to pull down to your local machine, all right? So now we've got 2 commits, 2 edits to this. The page is updated. This thing at the bottom appears that we've just put in. But if we were to look at our Battle Tank 3 commits, you can see it starting to come together. Cool. So we have a remote repository now. This is the point. This is where we've got to. So how do we get this into our source tree? We go to the file and then new, and then clone/new. That's where we want to go. And we're going to clone. Now, I have already connected my source tree, as you probably have, to your GitHub. So when you click on the little world icon here, browse hosted projects, you'll get a list come up. Now I could search for Battle, and of all my things, I should get Battle Tank. Cool. And I can literally just say clone now. Simple as that. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull down the contents of that very small repo that only contains that README file and the gitignore, and it's going to pop it over here. I've got a bookmark. If I look at the master branch, I can see that I've got a README file, and then I can see the historical changes there. I've got a gitignore that's got a lot more in it than before, which we've taken from Unreal. From the GitHub website. And that's it. We're pretty much ready to go. In fact, I'm at a stage now where I'm ready to commit the next video. I could edit the README file locally, of course, by just double-clicking it. I could commit this video, which is BT03, setting up a GitHub repo. And that's all I've done in this video. I haven't really made any code changes. So if I save that README file, then, of course, I'll see some uncommitted changes here, saying that I've done this, and then I can commit that. And we're back to our familiar workflow, which works the other way round, of course, which is that we go from our local to the web, but you haven't seen me do that yet. So what we've done previously is we've given a commit a name and we've committed like this. And it arrives here, right? Now, you have a checkbox, show remote branches. In the Mac, it's a drop-down. You can see that the master, which we're on locally, is here, but the origin master, and by default the GitHub repository is called origin, is 1 behind, and that's why the push has a 1 symbol. It's saying that what you have locally is 1 behind what is on the web. So you can click push the local master to the remote master, and OK. And what that's going to do is just transmit that very simple change that I'm only doing for demonstration purposes up to the web. If we now go back to the GitHub website and refresh, you can see that we will in a moment have BT03, you see? So that's it. It's now on the web. This link here, 04 Battle Tank, is the URL that you could share with somebody and they can get hold of all your source and they can look up different branches if you set them up, and they can look at all your commits and get to your project at any point in history. So that's what I want your challenge to be. I want you to set up your own remote repo on GitHub or Bitbucket. Write your first readme.md. Why not include your GDD in there, for example, and then share the repo link with us so that we can all have a look at your project as it progresses. Once you've shared that link once, it'll stay up to date as you push to the web. Pretty cool, hey? And I've already done that, so this is just your challenge to get it done for yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.